Mildred had always lived a life of simplicity, tucked away in the sleepy corners of her small town. A retired schoolteacher with no great claims to fame, her days were measured in cups of tea and the occasional phone call from her estranged family. That is, until the day one of her former students, a man now grown and prosperous, appeared on her doorstep. "Mrs. Caldwell," he said, his voice thick with gratitude, "you changed my life. This is for you." He pressed an old coin into her palm, its surface worn smooth by time. The faint markings were indecipherable, but something about it felt alive, as though it thrummed with unseen power. "It's said to bring incredible fortune to its keeper," the man explained, "but there's a rule: you must never, ever spend it." Mildred chuckled at the absurdity of it, but pocketed the coin nonetheless. She thought little of it at first, but over the following weeks, something undeniable began to shift. Her chronic aches faded, replaced by a vitality she hadn't felt in decades. Her long-absent children began visiting her, their laughter filling her home like it hadn't in years. Neighbours who had once passed her by without so much as a nod began stopping by with baked goods, smiles and invitations. Even her meagre pension seemed to stretch further, as if her dwindling bank account had found a way to multiply itself. The coin sat nestled in her jewellery box, forgotten in the rush of her newfound joy. But then came the plea. A local charity on the verge of collapse, struggling to raise funds for a children's hospital. Mildred's heart ached for the cause. She wanted to help. She needed to help. And when her eyes fell upon the coin, glinting faintly in the dim light of her bedroom, an idea struck her. Surely, she thought, spending the coin this one time couldn't hurt. If it had brought her so much luck, surely it would do the same for others. With trembling hands, she handed the coin to the cashier at a jewellery store, exchanging it for a donation to the charity. And in that moment, something broke. Her vision blurred as the clerk thanked her, and a chill crawled up her spine. By the time she returned home, the warmth that had filled her life had vanished. Her children stopped returning her calls. Her friends grew cold, their smiles replaced with icy indifference. The vibrant health she'd enjoyed turned to weakness. Her hands shook, and her body ached worse than ever before. A week later, she sat in a sterile doctor's office as they uttered the words no one wants to hear: "It's terminal." Panic clawed at her chest as she stumbled back home, her mind racing. The coin. It had to be the coin. She retraced her steps, begged the jewellery store to return it, even offered to buy it back. But it was gone, sold to another collector. And then the nightmares began. In her dreams, she saw herself standing at the edge of an abyss, clutching the coin. Behind her, shadowy figures wailed and screamed, their faces twisted with suffering. She recognized some of them. Neighbors who had lost jobs, strangers who had missed opportunities. And then she understood. The coin had never given her luck. It had stolen it from others, draining their fortunes to enrich her own. Every moment of happiness she had experienced had come at someone else's cost. By hoarding the coin, she had amassed a mountain of stolen karma, and by spending it, she had unleashed the weight of all the misfortune it had diverted. Racked with guilt, Mildred knew what she had to do. She began searching tirelessly for the coin, following rumors and whispers of its whereabouts, desperate to undo the harm she had caused. But fate had other plans. One cold morning, as she stood on a crowded street corner, her vision dimmed. The last thing she saw was a stranger walking past her, clutching the coin in their hand, their face alight with joy. Mildred's body crumpled to the ground, and as the world faded around her, she heard a whisper in her ear, soft, cruel, and final. "The coin was never yours to keep. Fate is not a gift, it is a debt."